There are moments in life when the world seems to grow strangely quiet, as though creation itself is holding its breath. Perhaps you have felt it in the hush of early morning, when the light first spills over the horizon, or in the stillness after some great storm. These moments are not mere accidents of nature. They are doorways, and beyond those doorways is the certainty that God is drawing near to you. We have been trained by the rush of our days to believe that the divine is always far off, hidden in some unreachable heaven, watching from a distance. Yet this is the great misunderstanding. God is not merely summoning you to climb the long hill of virtue and devotion to reach him. No, he is descending that hill himself, coming into the valley where you stand. You are not an abandoned traveler, you are the pursued beloved. Think for a moment about the way a parent approaches a child who has fallen in the mud. The child may cry out in shame, expecting the parent to stand far away and demand cleanliness first. But the true parent kneels in the dirt, gathers the child up, and carries them home to be made clean. So it is with you. You imagine you must fix yourself before you can meet him, but the truth is, he comes precisely because you cannot fix yourself. And this arrival is not always announced with trumpets or visions. Sometimes it comes like a whisper you almost miss. Sometimes it's the quiet conviction in your soul that you have been noticed. At other times, it is a fierce interruption, a sudden break in the path you thought you wanted. The arrival may disturb you, for it will not fit into the plans you have drawn up for your life. God comes not as an accessory to your schedule, but as the one who rewrites the whole story. You might be tempted to think, "This cannot be for me. Surely such visits are reserved for saints, for the good and pure." But if you think that way, you have forgotten the pattern of history. Again and again, the Almighty has chosen the overlooked, the reluctant, the imperfect. A shepherd boy, a runaway prophet, a fisherman mending nets, a tax collector hiding his greed behind polite smiles. These were not paragons of virtue. They were the ordinary people to whom God came and through whom he worked wonders. When God comes to you, he does not come to admire your strength. He comes to heal your weakness. He does not arrive to congratulate you on your wisdom. He comes to replace your illusions with truth. This is why his coming can feel like both an embrace and a dismantling. The things you thought essential may be stripped away, not to harm you, but to set you free. So if you find the edges of your life trembling with some unexplainable urgency, if the air around you feels charged as though something is about to break, pay attention. This is not the restlessness of boredom, it is the knock at your door. And when you open it, you will not meet a stranger, but the one who has known your name before you ever spoke it. God is not distant. He actively seeks and comes to you where you are. God is not distant. He actively seeks and comes to you where you are. This is not a poetic exaggeration or a comforting illusion meant to ease our minds in moments of despair. It is the heart of the story humanity has been living since the beginning. We often imagine God as a far-off ruler, residing in some unreachable height, issuing commands through a chain of intermediaries. We think of him as watching from a distance, taking notes of our failures, and waiting until we have somehow proved ourselves worthy to be noticed. Yet the reality is the opposite. The God who breathed life into the first man and woman has never ceased to draw near to his creation. He is not waiting for you to climb the impossible ladder of self-improvement before he visits. He is coming down that ladder himself, entering the very place where you stand. You can see this pattern woven into every page of history. In the earliest days, when Adam and Eve hid in the garden, it was God who came walking in the cool of the day, calling to them. When Israel was groaning in slavery, he did not send merely a letter of comfort. He descended in fire upon the mountain, speaking to his people. When humanity was lost in the darkness of its own choices, he did not remain seated on a distant throne. He came as one of us, wearing our skin, walking our roads, bearing our pain. This is not a God who waits for an appointment. This is a God who interrupts the course of our lives with his arrival. We are accustomed to the human way of relationships. If someone important wants to see us, we must prepare, dress well, rehearse our words, make sure we are worthy of their attention. But God flips this upside down. He does not require your worthiness before he draws near. His nearness is what begins to make you worthy. If you are standing in the shadows, convinced you must clean yourself up before you approach him, you have misunderstood his nature. The shepherd does not demand that the lost sheep find its own way back. He leaves the 99 and comes searching for the one. And when he finds it, he does not scold it for getting lost. He lifts it onto his shoulders and carries it home. This nearness is not always felt in grand visions or overwhelming sensations. More often, it is woven into the subtle moments that could easily be missed. The sudden sense that your heart is being called towards something higher. The unexpected comfort that arrives in your grief. The unexplainable peace that settles in a storm. You cannot control. These are not coincidences. They are the footprints of a God who has stepped into your present moment. Even your restlessness, that ache you feel for something beyond what you can see, may be the sign that he is already on his way, and when he comes, it is always to meet you in your reality, not in the imagined future you keep promising to build for yourself. He steps into the clutter of your circumstances, the confusion of your thoughts, the tangle of your failures. He is not disgusted by the mess. He is drawn to it because it is the place where his love can do its deepest work. You may be standing in a place you never wanted to be, but he has no hesitation about meeting you there. His coming is not hindered by your weakness, nor is it delayed by your mistakes. He is already moving toward you, already speaking your name, already closing the distance you thought could never be closed. His arrival often defies expectations, disrupting plans to transform your life. His arrival often defies expectations, disrupting plans to transform your life. We tend to think we know how God should show up, perhaps in a way that fits neatly into our schedule, aligning with our hopes and reinforcing the plans we have already made. But the truth is, when he comes, it is rarely in the manner we predict. His approach often unsettles before it comforts. It can feel like a sudden storm on a calm day, or like a door slamming shut when you were sure you were walking in the right direction. Yet, in that disruption lies the seed of transformation. Because the God who comes is not interested in endorsing our limited visions, but in replacing them with his far greater design. Consider the stories we have inherited from those who encountered him before us. A man was called from his homeland to wander in a foreign country without a clear map of the destination. A young woman in a quiet town was told she would bear a child who would change the world, though she had never known a man. Fishermen were told to drop their nets, their source of livelihood, and follow someone they had only just met. In each case, God's arrival was not an addition to their existing plans. It was the unraveling of those plans and the weaving of something new. And though each of them may have felt unprepared or even unwilling at first, what he began in those moments could never have been accomplished by their own efforts. We often resist this kind of arrival because it threatens our sense of control. We want God to bless our carefully arranged life without altering its shape too much, but his presence is not like a small ornament you place on an already decorated tree. It is more like the seed of a tree planted in the middle of your living room. Over time it will grow, push aside furniture, crack the floor, and change the entire structure of the house. His coming is not to fit into what we have built, but to rebuild altogether. This can be frightening, because what he dismantles may include the very things we thought we needed most. But what feels like loss in the moment is often the necessary clearing for something far more enduring to take root. Sometimes the disruption comes in the form of an unexpected calling. a pull toward a place or a work you never imagined. Other times, it arrives as a crisis, a job loss, a relationship ending, a season of hardship that shakes the foundation you have stood on for years. It may even appear as a delay, where everything seems to be standing still and your prayers feel unanswered. Yet, each of these can be the doorway for His transforming work. The challenge is that, from our perspective, such moments look like chaos. From His perspective, they are the precise turning points where the old self begins to give way to the new, and there is this to remember: His disruption is never aimless. When He unsettles your plans, it is because He sees what you cannot. He knows where the road you have chosen will end, and if it is leading you away from the fullness of His life, He will interrupt you without apology. The interruption is not a rejection. It is an act of deep mercy. To have your path altered by His hand is not a sign that you have failed, but that you have been seen. His arrival does not honor the comfort of your routines. It honors the truth of your destiny. And though in the moment it may feel like the rug has been pulled from under you, it is actually the ground being cleared so that your feet can stand on something unshakable. God chooses the ordinary and imperfect to accomplish extraordinary purposes. God chooses the ordinary and imperfect to accomplish extraordinary purposes. This has always been His way, and it is one of the most startling truths about His character. We, in our human way of thinking, are drawn to the impressive, the talented, the flawless. We want leaders who look the part, voices that command a room, hands that never tremble. Yet the story of God's work in the world is filled with people who did not fit those expectations at all. Over and over, He bypassed the obvious choice to select the overlooked, the unqualified, and the unlikely. It is not that He does not value skill or strength, but that His purposes are most clearly revealed when they shine through the weakness of those who could never achieve them on their own. Look closely, and you will see this pattern everywhere. A man with a stutter is sent to speak before the most powerful ruler of his age. A timid farmer is called to lead a military victory. A shepherd boy, too young to join his brothers in battle, is chosen to face a giant warrior with nothing but a sling. A persecutor of believers becomes the very messenger who carries the gospel across nations. These were not extraordinary people when they were called. They became extraordinary because God's power worked through them. Their imperfections did not disqualify them. In fact, those very imperfections became the stage on which His glory could be seen more clearly. This truth carries both a challenge and a comfort. The challenge is that it strips away every excuse we might offer for why God could not use us. We like to believe our flaws are barriers to His plans because it gives us permission to stay on the sidelines. But if He has always chosen the flawed, then our weakness is not an obstacle, but an invitation. The comfort is that we do not need to manufacture greatness in order to be part of His work. Our role is not to make ourselves worthy, but to be willing when He calls. It is His strength that will bear the weight of the task, not ours. When God chooses the ordinary, it also confounds the expectations of the world. Those who watch cannot explain it by human logic, and that is part of the point. If a victory comes through the strongest warrior, it is easy to give the credit to the warrior. But when it comes through a shepherd boy or a fisherman, it becomes impossible to deny that the victory belongs to God. In this way, He not only accomplishes the task at hand, but also reveals something of Himself to everyone who witnesses it. The work is not just about the mission. It is about displaying the nature of the one who sends it. The ordinary and imperfect also tend to know the value of dependence. They are not fooled into thinking they can do it all on their own, because they are well aware of their limitations. This humility becomes the fertile soil in which faith can grow deep roots. When such a person steps forward in obedience, the world sees courage not born of self, confidence, but of trust in the one who called them. That kind of courage has a different weight to it. It is steady, enduring, and unshaken by the shifting approval of others. You may believe that the quiet corners of your life, the hidden and unremarkable parts of your story, are beyond the reach of something extraordinary. But God is not scanning the earth for the most polished resume or the most dazzling talent. He is looking for hearts that will say yes, even when they feel unprepared. The history of his work is proof that when he chooses such a heart, there is no limit to what can unfold through